When Keanu Reeves stops at a red light on a quiet Los Angeles street, he expects nothing more than a peaceful drive home. But as he rests his hands on the steering wheel, something catches his eye. A car door swings open ahead and a man steps out. In the dim glow of the streetlights, Keanu watches as the man gestures to the sidewalk. Then, without a second glance, he gets back in, slams the door shut, and speeds off, leaving behind something small, motionless. At first, Keanu thinks he must be mistaken, but as his headlights illuminate the abandoned figure, his grip tightens on the wheel. Lying there unmoving is a dog. What Keanu does next will shock everyone and change one life forever. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another special story for you. The afternoon sun hung low in the Los Angeles sky, casting long golden streaks over towering buildings and endless avenues. The city buzzed with its usual energy, cars honking, people moving with purpose. But for Keanu Reeves, it all felt distant, muffled, as if he were inside a soundproof bubble. His black Mercedes glided smoothly over the sun-scorched asphalt, the tinted windows shielding him from the harsh glare. The engine purred with a low, soothing hum, filling the cabin with a steady rhythm. Keanu had always enjoyed driving at this time of day. It was one of the few moments he could be alone, away from the flashing cameras, away from expectations. He had just left a charity event, a well-rehearsed routine of speeches, polite handshakes, and staged smiles. He understood its importance, knew that his presence helped bring attention to good causes, but these events always left him with an odd emptiness. A lingering sense that despite all the effort, nothing really changed. He exhaled quietly and loosened his tie. The radio played a soft, instrumental melody, something melancholic and distant. Keanu wasn't paying attention to the notes, but the tone fit his mood. The warm sunlight filtered through the windshield, mixing with the cool air from the AC. The city blurred past in colors and movement, but he remained detached. It was a beautiful day, a normal day. Yet there was a weight inside him, a weight that had no name. Keanu slowed the car to a stop at the intersection. The road ahead stretched long, cars zipping past in a hurried rhythm. A man on a bicycle pedaled lazily along the sidewalk. A group of tourists posed for pictures near a mural in the distance. Nothing out of the ordinary. Until a black car pulled over on the opposite side of the street. There was no real reason for Keanu to pay attention to it. This was Los Angeles. People parked and left all the time. But something made him keep his eyes on it a moment longer than necessary. The passenger door opened. A man stepped out. He looked unremarkable. Dark jeans, a light jacket, a baseball cap shielding part of his face. His movements were quick, decisive, like someone with a clear purpose. And then Keanu saw it. The man walked to the back of the car and opened the rear door. There was a brief pause, a second or two. Then something small jumped out, or rather, was left behind. A dog. Keanu blinked, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. He expected the man to glance back, to show hesitation, to say a quiet goodbye. But there was nothing. No lingering moment, no last glance. The man simply slammed the door shut. The car's tires screeched slightly as it pulled away from the curb, merging back into traffic. And just like that, the dog was alone. Keanu felt a pressure in his chest. The dog didn't move. It didn't chase the car, didn't bark, didn't cry. It just stood there, completely still. The traffic light turned green. A horn blared behind him. Keanu tightened his jaw. He had two choices: drive away or stop. He hesitated. Glancing at the rearview mirror, he saw the dog still there, unmoving. Another honk. With a sharp exhale, he pressed the gas pedal and moved forward. For a moment, he thought that was the end of it. But something made him check the mirror again. And what he saw made his heart skip a beat. The dog was looking straight at him. Not begging, not hopeful, just empty. Keanu swallowed hard. He knew that look, the look of someone who had already given up. A quiet curse slipped from his lips, and then, in one swift motion, he veered the car to the side of the road. The Mercedes came to a smooth stop. For a moment, he simply sat there, hands still gripping the wheel, his breathing slightly heavier. The dog hadn't moved. Keanu closed his eyes for a second, let out a deep sigh, and opened the door. The warm afternoon air hit his face as he stepped out, The sunlight painted everything in a golden hue, the heat rising gently from the pavement. But Keanu ignored all of it. His focus was on the dog. He crossed the street with slow, measured steps. The closer he got, the more details he noticed. The dog was small, its short, dark fur dirty and unkempt. He could see faint outlines of ribs beneath its thin frame. But the most disturbing thing wasn't the physical condition. It was the complete lack of reaction. Keanu had seen stray dogs before. Some ran away. Others barked in fear. This one just stood there. He crouched slightly, trying to appear less intimidating. "Hey." His voice was soft, careful. The dog didn't react. It blinked slowly, as if the world around it barely registered. Keanu hesitated. A moment passed. He scanned the area, wondering if anyone else had noticed, if someone was missing this dog. But the world continued as if the animal didn't exist. The sun reflected off the tall windows of the buildings. A light breeze rustled dry leaves along the sidewalk. The city kept moving, but Keanu couldn't. Something inside him clenched. He tried again. He lowered the car window slightly and called out. No response. The dog didn't flinch, didn't turn its head. It was as if it no longer expected anything from the world. Keanu's breath hitched in his throat. For a moment it seemed like the dog would move. But then instead, it lowered its head, as if accepting its fate. Keanu hesitates. He knows this dog isn't going to run. It isn't waiting for a second chance. It has already given up. The warm afternoon breeze carried the scent of asphalt and sun-baked concrete as Keanu stood still, staring at the small figure in front of him. The world moved around him, cars driving past, pedestrians walking with purpose. But in that moment, it was just him and the dog. He hesitated. Something about this wasn't right. He had seen abandoned animals before. Usually they were restless, pacing, barking, running, searching for something, anything. But this dog, it didn't move, it didn't look around. It didn't whimper or wag its tail. It just stood there, like it had been left behind so many times before that it no longer expected anything different. Keanu swallowed hard. His feet moved before his mind fully caught up. He crossed the remaining distance carefully, stopping just a few feet away from the dog. Up close, he could see its thin frame, the filthy fur, the way its ribs showed slightly beneath the dirt. But what unsettled him the most was the look in its eyes. Empty, tired, resigned. It wasn't afraid, it wasn't hopeful, it was just existing. Keanu lowered himself into a crouch, making himself smaller, less threatening. "Hey." His voice was soft, almost hesitant. The dog blinked slowly, but it didn't lift its head. He frowned. Something about the way it was acting was wrong. Not just the silence, not just the stillness. It was the complete lack of reaction. Even a dog that had given up should still have some instinct to survive, to run, to flinch, to shrink away. But this one, it just stood there, like it had already accepted whatever fate would come next. Keanu's fingers tightened against his knee. He knew that feeling, knew it all too well. He took a breath, resisting the memories pressing against the edges of his mind, and refocused on the dog. "You okay, buddy?" He knew the question was pointless, but the words came out anyway. No response. Keanu looked around. The city hadn't stopped for this. People walked by, lost in their own worlds. No one noticed the dog. Had it been standing here for minutes, hours? Did anyone care? His jaw tensed. He reached out his hand, palm open, giving the dog space to smell him. Nothing. It didn't even flinch. Keanu's stomach twisted. He had seen wounded dogs before, seen fear, seen hesitation. But this was worse. This wasn't fear. This was absence. This was surrender. The dog's fur was coarse, knotted, its legs thin but sturdy. Up close, he could see scars beneath the dirt, old wounds. Keanu didn't realize he was holding his breath. His throat tightened. He should just leave. This wasn't his problem. He had places to be. But his feet didn't move. And when he looked at the dog again, the words of someone from his past echoed in his mind. Sometimes, the ones who've suffered the most are the ones who never ask for help. Damn it. Keanu exhaled through his nose. He took a slow step back, glancing toward his car. If the dog wouldn't come to him, maybe if he just waited. He moved toward the Mercedes, keeping his pace relaxed, opened the driver's side door and leaned against it. Then he turned back to the dog, still motionless. Keanu tapped his fingers against the roof of the car. Not even gonna try to run, huh? Nothing. The breeze picked up slightly, rustling the loose folds of his suit jacket. The sunlight had started to shift, casting longer shadows along the pavement. He looked at the dog again. It still hadn't moved. His fingers curled against the door. A battle waged in his mind. He knew the logical answer. This wasn't his responsibility. There were shelters, rescue groups, people who did this kind of thing for a living. But would anyone even notice this dog before it was too late? Would anyone stop for it the way he had? Keanu ran a hand through his hair and let out a long breath. He had made up his mind. All right, buddy, let's get you out of here. He walked back, this time closing the distance completely. The dog didn't resist when he knelt down. Didn't even flinch when Keanu carefully lifted his suit jacket off his shoulders and draped it over the animal's back. The fabric was soft, warm from the heat of the day. Still no reaction, no shaking, no tail wag, no resistance, just acceptance. Keanu's stomach turned. He carefully slipped an arm under the dog's small frame. And that was when he felt it. A shudder, not from the cold, from fear. Keanu froze. He hadn't applied pressure, hadn't grabbed roughly, but the dog tensed beneath his touch, like it was waiting for something bad to happen, like it had been hurt before. Keanu's heart clenched. Slowly, he looked down at the dog's neck. And that's when he saw it, a collar, old, dirty, worn. The tag was still there, but the name had been scratched off. Had someone tried to erase this dog's past? Had it belonged to someone who wanted to forget it ever existed? Keanu's jaw tightened. This wasn't just abandonment. This was erasure. And he wasn't going to let it end here. Keanu's fingers hovered over the dog's collar, his breath slowing as he processed what he was seeing. The tag was still there, a small circular piece of metal attached to the worn-out fabric. But the name had been scratched off, not faded, not worn down by time, deliberately removed. Someone had made sure that whatever this dog had been called before, it was gone now. Keanu swallowed hard. His first instinct was anger. The kind of slow-burning anger that settled deep in his chest, the kind he rarely let surface. He didn't understand how someone could look into the eyes of an animal, a creature that only knew how to give, and decide to erase it from existence. His hand hovered just above the dog's neck, as if the collar itself carried the weight of the past it had lost. The dog remained still. Keanu exhaled through his nose, shaking his head slightly. This wasn't about anger. It was about this moment, right now. The dog was here, standing in front of him, abandoned but still breathing. That meant there was still time, still a choice to be made. Keanu moved slowly, carefully slipping his fingers under the collar. It was loose, almost too big for the dog's thin frame. The buckle was old, rusted at the edges, but it held. He adjusted it slightly. The dog didn't react. Still no fear, still no resistance. Keanu didn't know whether that made things better or worse. He reached out, gently brushing his fingers over the fur beneath the collar. That's when he felt it. Scar tissue, old wounds. Small, but noticeable. His stomach twisted. Who had done this to him? And how many times? Keanu clenched his jaw and let his hand drop to his side. The dog was watching him, not expectantly, not nervously, just watching, as if waiting to see what he would do next. Keanu took a deep breath. Then he reached for his jacket, still draped over the dog's back. He carefully adjusted it, wrapping it a little more snugly around the frail body. The dog blinked, didn't resist, didn't fight it. Keanu wasn't sure why, but that made his chest feel heavier. He straightened up, looking around at the city. The sun was starting to dip lower in the sky. The late afternoon glow stretched shadows across the pavement, painting everything in soft gold. People passed by, cars rolled through the streets. Life continued as normal. No one else had noticed the dog, no one had stopped, no one had even looked. Keanu ran a hand through his hair. He glanced back down. The dog was still standing there, still waiting. For what? For someone to leave it behind again? For the world to forget it completely? Keanu exhaled sharply and made his decision. Come on. He turned and walked toward his car. He didn't look back to see if the dog followed. He just walked. And then he heard it. A small sound, almost too quiet to notice. the softest shuffle of paws on pavement. His heart clenched. He slowed his steps, but didn't stop. He reached the car and opened the back door. And then, for the first time, he turned. The dog was standing a few feet away. It had followed him. Not quickly, not eagerly, just enough. Keanu crouched down again, resting an arm on his knee. "It's okay." He motioned toward the open car door. The dog didn't move. Keanu waited. And for a moment, he wondered if this was it. If the dog had followed him this far, but couldn't take the next step. If it had spent so much time being left behind that it didn't know how to be taken along. His fingers tapped lightly against the car door. "I'm not gonna hurt you, buddy." Nothing. The dog just stood there. Keanu took a slow breath. Then gently, he pulled his jacket off the dog's back and placed it inside the car. He made sure it was open, like a small, safe space. Then he backed away, giving it the choice. The dog looked at him, then at the car, then back at him. Keanu held still. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the dog took a single step forward, then another. Then, with a slow, careful movement, it climbed into the car. Keanu let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He reached forward, carefully pulling the door closed. The dog didn't flinch, didn't panic. It just lay down, as if it had been waiting for this moment all along. Keanu swallowed the lump in his throat. He moved to the driver's seat, slid inside, and started the engine. For a moment, he just sat there, hands on the wheel, thinking about this dog, about how easily he could have driven away and never looked back, how close this life had come to being completely erased. Keanu glanced in the rearview mirror. The dog was curled up on the seat, not sleeping, not tense, just there. And for the first time, Keanu thought, what if this wasn't just about saving the dog? What if this dog was saving him too? He shook the thought from his head, put the car into gear, and pulled onto the road. This wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning. The dog is safe for now, but Keanu can't shake the feeling that it has a story that will never be told. What happened to it? Who erased its past? The house was quiet, the late afternoon light casting soft golden streaks across the wooden floor. Keanu stood in the doorway, watching the dog as it curled up near the edge of the room. It hadn't explored, hadn't sniffed around, hadn't wagged its tail. It was simply waiting. For what, Keanu wasn't sure. His gaze dropped to the dog's collar. The name tag was still there, but the letters had been scratched off, deliberately. Someone hadn't just abandoned this dog, they had erased it. Keanu ran his fingers through his hair, exhaling. What kind of person would do that? He knelt down slowly, making sure not to startle the dog. He reached out carefully, touching the collar. It was old, worn. His fingertips brushed over the blank tag, feeling the rough, uneven texture where a name used to be. A name someone wanted forgotten. His chest tightened. Who did this to you? The dog blinked but didn't move. Keanu sighed, leaning back on his heels. He wasn't sure why this bothered him so much. Maybe because he knew what it felt like to have people try to define your life for you, to have your past twisted into something else, to feel like parts of yourself had been taken away. He wasn't going to let that happen to this dog. Not anymore. He stood up and walked to the kitchen. Filling a small bowl with water, he set it on the floor near the dog. A long moment passed. Then, finally, the dog moved. It stepped forward cautiously and took a sip. Keanu let out a breath. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And sometimes that was all you needed. The house was silent, the warm glow of early evening filtering through the windows. Keanu sat on the couch, watching the dog from across the room. It had moved, just barely, but it was something. It had chosen to step forward, to drink, to exist here, in this moment. Keanu leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You're safe, buddy." The dog blinked, but didn't look away. It was the longest it had held his gaze. Keanu had seen this kind of hesitation before, not in animals, but in people. The ones who had been hurt too many times, the ones who had learned not to trust too easily. He moved slowly, lowering himself to the floor. The dog tensed, just a little. Keanu held still. "I'm not gonna hurt you." His voice was soft, steady. He reached out a hand, palm up, waiting. The dog watched him. For a long moment, it didn't move. Then, so cautiously it was almost imperceptible, It leaned forward. Its nose barely brushed against Keanu's fingers. A second, a moment. Then it pulled back. Keanu smiled, just a little. It wasn't much, but it was trust, the very first step. And sometimes that was all you needed. Morning sunlight streamed through the large windows of Keanu's home, casting a warm glow over the wooden floors. The world outside was already awake, cars humming in the distance, birds singing in the trees. But inside, everything was still. Keanu sat on the couch, a cup of coffee in his hand, his gaze drifting toward the dog. It was watching him, not nervously, not cautiously, just watching. It had slept near the doorway, curled up in the same careful position as before, never fully relaxing, never stretching out, as if it wasn't sure it belonged here yet. Keanu sipped his coffee. "You hungry?" The dog didn't react. Keanu set his cup down and stood. He moved to the kitchen, grabbed another bowl, and filled it with food he had picked up late last night. Something simple, but good enough. He placed it on the floor, then stepped back, and waited. The dog looked at the bowl, looked at Keanu. Then, slowly, it stood up. Keanu stilled. The quiet hum of the morning settled over Keanu's house. The dog had finished eating. Now, it sat near the couch, watching him, not out of fear, not out of hesitation, but with something different, something closer to understanding. Keanu sipped his coffee, letting the warmth wake him up. It had been a long night, not just because of the dog, but because of the call. The voice on the other end. "I know about the dog." It's not the first time they've done this. Keanu hadn't stopped thinking about those words. Who was behind this? And why did they erase the dog's past? His phone buzzed. He picked it up. Unknown number. Again. Keanu answered. "Yeah." A pause. Then the same voice from last night. "Still have the dog?" Keanu's jaw tightened. "Yeah." Another pause. "Meet me in 1 hour. I'll send the location." Keanu exhaled slowly. "Why should I trust you?" The voice was calm. "Because I'm trying to stop this. And if you care about that dog, you should too." A text came through. The line went dead. Keanu lowered the phone. His gaze drifted to the dog. It still wasn't afraid of him, still wasn't eager either. But something had shifted, something small. Keanu ran a hand over his face. He didn't know what he was about to walk into. But one thing was clear. The past wasn't done with this dog yet, and neither was he. The man sighed. "I've been tracking this operation for months, but without proof no one listens. You found one of their failures. That means you have something they don't want exposed." Keanu glanced at his car, at the dog sitting quietly in the back seat. A discarded life. And now someone might want to erase it completely. His voice was low, steady. "Does it have a name?" The man hesitated, then quietly, "Ghost." Keanu's breath caught. "Ghost." He looked back at the dog again. It didn't react, didn't flinch. But something about the name felt right, like it had always been there, waiting to be spoken. Keanu exhaled. "Not anymore." The man frowned. Keanu turned back, his decision already made. "Whatever they tried to erase, I'm giving it back. The name, the life, everything." The man studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then you better be ready, because they're not gonna like that."